Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling a really big question. Almost sounds too good to be true, maybe. What if your thoughts actually truly shaped your entire reality? We're going to dive deep into Joseph Murphy's 1963 classic, Believing Yourself. It's a foundational text exploring the power, the incredible power of your subconscious mind.
Right.
Our mission today, let's unpack its core ideas, figure out its lasting impact, and yeah, we also need to look at where it might, fall a bit short.
And it's fascinating because Murphy's ideas, they really come from quite a unique background. He was deeply involved in metaphysics and Christian Science,
Okay.
which puts this book squarely in like the New Thought movement tradition.
Yeah.
And New Thought, well, fundamentally, it suggests your mind directly influences your reality. It's
Sure.
about harnessing faith, positive thinking, practical tools for life.
Right, practical tools. And his central argument, it's so simple on the surface, but it's actually quite disruptive, isn't it?
It really is.
He says, the subconscious mind, it's not just like a dusty attic for memories. It's a creative force,
Yeah.
a hugely creative force.
Exactly.
And he contrasts this with what he calls negative conditioning, those ingrained limiting beliefs, the old mental habits just running on autopilot, holding you back.
Yeah, the default settings almost.
Exactly. But he argues, if you deliberately align that subconscious with positive beliefs, you can actually unlock health, wealth, happiness, the whole package. Why do you think that idea still resonates so much?
Well, I think it's disruptive because it puts the power squarely in your court. It's empowering.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just leave it there, he gives you techniques.
Like what?
He champions daily affirmations, repeating positive statements with feeling like every day in every way I'm getting better and better, and also mental imagery, visualization.
Right.
Picturing the outcome you want.
Precisely. And these aren't just, feel-good exercises for him. He saw them as direct commands. You're basically reprogramming your subconscious. And this concept, it actually predates the whole law of attraction craze by decades.
Oh, interesting. So he was talking about this way before The Secret novel.
Long before it got commercialized, yeah. Murphy often linked it more explicitly to spiritual practice. He suggested trusting in a higher power or maybe a universal energy amplifies your ability to make changes. He also talks about overcoming fear, replacing that self-doubt with confidence, with gratitude.
It sounds incredibly powerful, these core ideas.
Yeah.
But beyond the theory, what made his approach so actionable for people back then? And why does a book from 1963 still feel relevant, even uplifting today?
Well, the actionable part is key. He gives you concrete steps. Write down your affirmations, meditate on specific solutions, actively practice gratitude, simple things you can do.
Right, not just abstract concepts.
Exactly. And the tone is just undeniably inspiring. It really encourages resilience, self-empowerment in a very direct, accessible way. As for relevance, well, Murphy's core ideas, mindset, intentionality, they echo so strongly in modern self-help, don't they? Think about mindfulness, manifestation.
Yeah, you see the lineage there.
Absolutely. It's like he laid the groundwork for so many later works like The Secret, Maybe You Are a Badass. It helps understand where a lot of these current ideas actually come from. It's foundational.
Okay, that makes complete sense. Foundational, influential. But let's pivot slightly. I can imagine some listeners thinking, okay, but where's the scientific proof?
Right.
What are the criticisms? Particularly around, scientific rigor and maybe oversimplifying complex issues.
That's a really important point, and a common critique. Murphy's claims, they rely very heavily on anecdotes, personal stories, and his spiritual philosophy.
Not so much on empirical research as we define it today.
Exactly. There aren't controlled studies cited in the way a modern psychologist might present evidence. And that can definitely be a barrier for people who prioritize that kind of validation. It might alienate skeptics.
Sure.
And then there's the oversimplification critique. Some argue, quite fairly I think, that the book can downplay systemic barriers.
Like socioeconomic factors, inequality, that kind of thing.
Precisely. It frames success almost solely as a product of individual thought, which, doesn't always acknowledge the very real external challenges people face. It doesn't really dig into societal structures.
Right, it puts all the onus on the individual's mind.
Pretty much. And just stylistically, some readers find parts of it a bit repetitive. He does circle back to his core messages quite often.
Got it. So, some valid criticisms there. But despite all that, Believe in Yourself clearly remains incredibly influential. It sparked countless personal shifts.
Undeniably.
Joseph Murphy himself wrote, and I think this sums it up well, Your subconscious mind will translate into reality the dominant thoughts you hold.
Powerful quote.
It is. And whether you take his work as a literal guide, or maybe just use it as a prompt to think critically about success and belief, it definitely makes you reflect on the power of what you hold in your mind.
Absolutely. And maybe that's the final thought for you, the listener, to take away. Just consider how much of your reality might actually be shaped by your dominant thoughts, and what does realizing that imply? Not just for your inner world, but for how you navigate the challenges out there. It's a deep question to ponder.